sports betting was largely illegal in the United States prior to the Supreme Court's decision in Murphy v. NCAA during 2018, which struck down a federal law that prohibited states from legalizing sports betting. The law in question was the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act, which had been in effect since the early 90s, and effectively banned sports betting across the country, with a few exceptions such as Nevada and a couple others. But in May 2018, when the Supreme Court ruled that this law was unconstitutional, well, this paved the way for individual states to legalize and regulate sports betting if they so chose. And since then, a number of states have passed laws legalizing sports betting either in person, online, or both. And all of this has marked a major turning point for sports betting in the United States. See, sports betting and fantasy sports betting have historically been viewed as separate activities by the law in the United States, and they have often been subject to different legal frameworks and regulation. Sports betting involves placing wagers on the outcomes of sporting events, like will the Knicks beat the Lakers tonight and by how much, while fantasy sports betting typically involves the selection of a virtual team of athletes competing against other users based on the real-world performance of those athletes. It doesn't sound too different in nature, but they have been treated so. And prior to the Supreme Court's decision in 2018, fantasy sports betting was generally viewed as a legal gray area. The legality of these games depended on a number of factors, including whether they were considered games of skill or games of chance, and whether they involved wagers on the outcome of the sporting event. Back in 2006, Congress passed the Unlawful Internet Gambling Enforcement Act, which prohibited online gambling sites from accepting payments for illegal bets. However, the law contained an exemption for fantasy sports betting, which was considered to be a game of skill rather than a game of chance. And with this exemption, brand new companies would come to emerge, ones that were about to change the sports betting landscape for good. This loophole allowed fantasy sports sites like DraftKings and FanDuel to operate in many states. These two companies would change the structure of fantasy sports betting indefinitely. See, back in the day, fantasy sports had typically been a season-long endeavor that was made up between you and your friends. This usually required a lot of coordination between many different people and a lot of time between the eventual possible payout. When DraftKings and FanDuel merged, they changed this game. Daily fantasy sports betting, and right from your phone. Now, it wasn't until the widespread adoption of smartphones and tablets in the 2010s that fantasy sports betting truly took off. But with the launch of dedicated sports betting apps, users could now place bets on sporting events anytime, anywhere, without the need for friends to coordinate with, or even without a computer. DraftKings ended 2022 with revenue of $2.24 billion. This was nearly $1 billion more than the previous year in 2021. And FanDuel recorded revenues of $3.2 billion in 2022, which was up 67% year over year. Now, both of these companies are still trying to turn a profit, but they would tell you that they're still in the growth stage of this emerging market. And it is safe to say we are in the very early innings of sports betting taking over America. In 2030, FanDuel projects revenue of around $16 billion. This is 5 times what their revenue currently is. 5 times. One of the key factors behind the success of these sports betting apps has been their ease of use. Most apps are designed to be intuitive and user-friendly, with simple interfaces that allow users to quickly and easily navigate through the various betting options available. They make depositing money frictionless and bombard users with special offers that are actually fairly deceiving, but more on that later. In addition, sports betting apps have also become increasingly sophisticated in terms of the features that they offer. Many apps now provide users with real-time updates on sporting events, as well as in-depth statistics and analysis to help them make more informed betting decisions. They'll even develop an entire content strategy around which players or teams have the best odds of performing well day to day. They can recommend you entire lineups for your fantasy team and provide convincing takes from some former pro athletes that will actually have you thinking that you're skilled at this and you can win. But there's another factor contributing to the popularity of these sports betting apps, and that has been the growing acceptance of sports betting as a legitimate form of entertainment. See, in the past, sports betting was often seen as a seedy and disreputable activity associated with organized crime and illegal gambling rings. Many of the professional sports leagues thought sports betting would seriously screw up the integrity of their games, and they had some pretty good reasons to fear this. However, in the recent years, there has been a huge shift and a growing acceptance of the potential benefits of sports betting, both by consumers and by the professional sports leagues themselves. The league leagues and organizations started to realize that this industry was going to generate billions and billions of dollars, and they wanted in on some of it. And this has been a common occurrence in gambling, where regulators and owners start thinking, well, if people are going to gamble anyway, we may as well regulate it and accept it so that it's safer, and more importantly, so that they can get their cut from this lucrative business. Owners also see this as a way to get more fans involved in their events. These leagues make the majority of their revenue from their TV broadcasting deals. The attention on their sporting events means more eyes on the event, which equals more money advertisers are willing to pay. So whether you're watching your favorite basketball team because you love them, or you're watching because you bet the farm on your fantasy team, it really doesn't matter to these guys. Now, despite some of the benefits of sports betting, these apps can also be incredibly harmful. For some users, these apps can quickly become addictive, leading to significant financial losses and other negative consequences. For example, many apps use bright colors, flashing lights. They want to grab your attention, while also offering a range of bonuses and promotions to entice users to place more bets. When notifications go off on your phone regarding a prop bet on the current bet you already have, it can be even more inducing to double down on what you feel like you already know to be true. Because remember, they say this is a game of skill and not luck. In addition, many sports betting apps also use algorithms and sophisticated techniques to personalize the user experience, tailoring the betting options and promotions presented to each individual user based on their past behavior and their preferences. While this may seem sort of innocuous, it can actually be incredibly effective at encouraging users to continue betting, even when they might otherwise want to stop or need to stop. To make matters worse, many sports betting apps use sneaky tactics to encourage users to spend more money than they might have otherwise intended. These are what's known as inducements. I'll give you an example. These apps will offer free bets or bonuses to entice users to sign up or to just place more bets. While some may not inherently think this is evil, the more you see it for what it is, the worse it actually is. Let's say you sign up on one of these apps and you deposit only $10 because, hey, you've never done this before, and betting $10 on your favorite players or team with a chance to win several $1,000s doesn't sound so bad. You bet on a few fantasy lineups and you lose your $10. Then a couple days pass, you don't really think about it, but the app sends you a notification. There's a free bet with a $15,000 prize pool. You're like, hey, it's free. Why not? So you take it, you submit a lineup, and you lose. But you were very close to winning something. And that idea of almost winning gets you right back in the mindset of saying, okay, I'll throw in another $10. This cycle can repeat, and even worse, players can convince themselves that the more they put down, the more the potential gain can be. And I think you're starting to get the picture on how quickly gambling can turn from some occasional fun to players blowing thousands and thousands of dollars on the hope of winning a big payout. With frictionless methods to deposit hundreds and hundreds of dollars right from your phone and in the comfort of your own home, with the idea that this is something that you can master while making big money. And this right here is how these apps retain users. Inducements are nothing new in the gambling industry, from Las Vegas casinos offering free meals or beverages to free flights to really anything you can think of to make the experience of gambling more enjoyable. They don't do this because they're trying to be nice. They do it because it's a proven method to get high rollers to spend more. These sports betting companies also love the use of what's known as social proof. This involves presenting users with information about other users who have won big or placed successful bets. This can be incredibly effective at convincing users to place more bets, as it creates a sense of social pressure to join in and participate. But even more so, it feels tangible, like, hey, this person just won a lot of money, I can too. They also love to do this with their advertising. I mean, heck, you've probably seen content creators on YouTube promote these brands during their ad reads. These ads are everywhere, and these brands love to parade the winners around as they keep the millions and millions who lose over there in a dark corner. Perhaps most concerning of all, though, is the cause and effect that's been proven between the accessibility of gambling and the chance of it turning into a serious problem. This is a big reason why most of the states in the US that do have casinos have them in very specific areas. While yes, gambling can be fun when consumed by the right people, at the right times, and in the right places, just like alcohol can be for many people. But the other side to that coin is real too. When consumed too much and at the wrong times, both of these actions can turn into serious addictions and ruin people's lives. Now, maybe you're watching this and you can responsibly bet on sports or gamble in other ways, and that's fine. I'm not here to stop anyone. I thought it was worth pointing out the rather devious various ways these apps operate and how at the end of the day, they are all businesses that center around getting users to spend more money on gambling. The ways in which they get users to spend is what people need to be aware of, as it's all derived from psychological ploys that are proven methods for these companies. It's interesting to look at some of the parallels between the gambling industry and the video game industry. I looked at why some of the biggest video game companies have garnered a lot of hate recently, and I covered it all in this video here. Check it out next. Thanks for watching. Peace.